Welcome back, and this week I have a very special segment with you, and it is how to deal and overcome the loss of a loved one. And for you guys who've been following along, recently I lost my uncle, and he was battling cancer for about a year and recently passed away. And so, what I want to share with you guys is how I cope, how I personally deal with it, and how I've always looked towards creativity to find my answers, to help me to overcome, help me to deal with things. And so, what I'm going to share with you guys today is that with this, I love being able to create things, being able to create portraits or create characters. For this, I chose to do a portrait. And what it does is when you go in and you create something. Now, I want to mention, I personally did a portrait. This can be something that you guys can create. You guys can create anything, whether it's an abstract painting or coloring in a picture or anything of that sort, to where you just get lost in it and you have fun. And it's something that catches the emotions that you throw at it. But here's the most important part of this, is that I put up pictures of my uncle and I'm trying to capture his likeness. The thing is that I have pictures of him around me. I have all the memories, all the thoughts, that even though he's gone, all of these, I have them forever. There's nobody on this planet that can steal every moment I've had with him. I have a lifetime of moments, of experiences, of things that, we talked about, that we did together, that are with me forever. And so every single one of those is mine. And I'm channeling that. I'm thinking about all of that. I'm singularly focusing on those times, on those moments, on my uncle. And in those moments, you can talk to him. You can laugh. You can smile at all the good times you guys had. That is where your focus is. And that's where you're putting all of this amazing energy into. And so, when you're doing this, it's actually really therapeutic because you're getting it all out into the open. You're letting all of your emotions out, the good, the bad, and just really channeling it all into one spot. The other thing is that you're going to start remembering things that you've forgotten about, things that you haven't thought about in a while. And as you're going to think of stories that happened. And like I said, you don't have to do a portrait. What if, for me and my uncle, I could have also chosen to do like a Godzilla character, because my uncle always loved Godzilla and all the old Godzilla movies he grew up on. And so that's a symbol that reminds me of him and makes me think of him. Another thing, which, growing up was always like a weird, funny story, but he somehow was at a convenience store, and somehow, I don't know, playing around, doing whatever they do as kids, and got a fish hook stuck in his finger. And somehow it was bad enough to where the paramedics had to take him out. And I guess he got to the hospital for them to remove it or whatever. But the story was always funny because the people at the store had this big issue and was saying that he was trying to shoplift it. He got the fish hook stuck in his hand. He had to get rushed to the hospital, but yet they're worried about their fish hooks being stolen. But that was always a funny story. But just sculpting something as small or as simple as that can be a token to remind me. Also, every time that I'm out and about, anytime that I see something like that, or anytime I see those little animals to where you press the button to kind of make noises or they dance or whatever, he was that one person that would always go down the aisle and hit every single one of them. So even though he may be gone from this world, we still have him, and we can continue to make new memories, new moments, because every time we see these little details, they they can reignite an old memory. Uh, Whether it be, a song, or whether it be a little object you see in the store, or something random, it's something that we can hold on to, and it brings their memory back to life. Another example is a few years back, one of the little heroes characters that I did, one of the little girls, her cancer came back as well, and she was fighting hard, and the cancer took her. But I drove down to her funeral, and there was a song they played, and while they were playing that, they had a few of these screens with slideshows playing, and the song they played was "You'll Be in My Heart" by Phil Collins. And so every time I hear that song, I even added it to my playlist. It's a trigger for, you know, thinking about her, remembering her, and the few times that I was able to meet her, once at her house and once in the hospital. You know, the other thing is she used to have a ton of like stuffed animals, like all over her bed, all over the floor. They had a whole bunch packed up. They weren't allowed to throw any of them away though, and she always had those big ones. So I remember her in the hospital having one of those huge teddy bears that was bigger than her. And so little things like that, even just seeing them, brings back those stories, bring back those moments. And so with moving forward, you have a choice of creating something and putting all of your emotions, everything you feel, all those stories into. You can create a portrait, you can create a picture, a random painting that just has these crazy brushstrokes that just shows how you feel. You could print out a black and white picture and color it in. You can do anything. But it's just a matter of, this is you spending time alone with them, or spending time with the family, all focusing in and thinking about them and sharing stories. And then the other thing to do is you can insert these objects or these ideas into either your everyday life, or really start noticing and appreciating them when they pop up. So for example, seeing those animals with the buttons making noises, or the fish hooks in the store, is something that's always going to trigger that story, and it's always going to bring them to my mind. The other thing with Kennedy is I have that song in my playlist, so I'm not constantly playing it. However, it does show up quite often. And therefore, I put it in there for a reason, so that I wouldn't forget her, and that song would trigger all of those memories, all of those stories, everything that I've done, and everything that I remember about her. The other thing is the same thing goes with my brother-in-law, Chris, who passed away a few years ago. This is way too bright to kind of see on camera. But I did this, and the biggest thing with that is that with Chris was, he was that person that I would always go and talk to. Any issues I had, any things that I wanted to get off my chest, he was that person I always went to. And he did the same with me. And so sculpting him, I've done a few times. And that's the other thing. This doesn't have to be, I'm going to create something and, you can create something and keep it and have it as like a memento, but you can go back and do this multiple times. And it's you going back and having that conversation with them and just spending the time. And for me, with Chris, it was letting things out and talking things through, and just all of those late nights and moments that we had. And so, being able to go back to that place, in time, and knowing that these stories, these memories, they are never going anywhere. I'm going to be able to create new memories with my uncle because of the pieces that I'm creating, and because of now every time, I go to the store, I can create new memories that wouldn't have been there if I wouldn't have noticed these little details. And every time I create a new piece or work on something, I can, that I want to put him into, I can again share those moments. And so that's what I wanted to kind of jump in and share today with you guys, of how you can channel your creativity to help you to kind of get a grasp and help you through these troubling times. And how it'll also help you to shift your mindset to focusing on the positive, focusing on everything that you have instead of the negative and what you're missing. Now that I said that, the biggest misconception that people have is that when people think about focusing on the positive, they have this misconception that they have to come up with a positive that's better than the situation ever happening. When in reality, that's not true. Focusing on the positive is simply understanding that life happens and there are things that are beyond our control. And life will happen to us. However, you can either focusing on the positive and everything you have, or you can focus on what you don't have, what you're missing, and what you lost. So for example, I can focus on the fact that I'm not going to have any more time with my uncle, that all the memories that, might have been planned are gone, that I'm never going to be able to see him or talk to him again. Or I can focus on the life that we had, and that I'm thankful that he was able to live for as long as he did. Tomorrow isn't guaranteed for any of us, and the fact that he lived a full life and that he actually touched so many people and that he made the impact that he did, and I can focus on all of that, and I can focus on telling his story. I can focus on sharing his life and his story and who he was to other people. And I can focus on making sure that my nieces and nephews, continue to hold on to this. And the other aspect of it is holding on to the positive, and everything I have from him just keeps me more alive. Or I can focus on everything I've lost and go down that downward spiral and be a negative wreck for my nieces and nephews. And that doesn't seem like a path that they need or that I would want to take. And so life is going to happen. There are a lot of things that are beyond our control, but what we can control is how we react to the situations that are dealt to us. And so I will always choose to focus on what I can use, what I am thankful for, what I'm positive about, and everything I've gotten instead of what I don't have. So I hope that this has shared some light and has given you guys a little bit of hope, a little bit of inspiration. You guys can go out there, create your own little creations. It doesn't have to be beautiful. It doesn't have to be amazing. As long as you enjoy doing it, you have fun, and you have a single focus of what you're working on, who that person was, even if it's just sculpting a little emoji, a little smiley face, because the person that you miss was always so happy. It can be as simple as that. That little token can put a smile on your face. So, thank you guys for listening, and I will catch you guys next week.